If you use halftime, today I'm going to explain how this is making your beats sound amateur. Recently, I was doing a one-on-one consultation with one of my course members, and she told me that she struggled to turn her loop into a full beat. And she ended up saying something that really gave me a light bulb moment. She said she'd often take her loop and just put halftime on it whenever she needed something different to happen in her beat. And this is something so many producers are guilty of. Let me explain why doing this is so bad. Reason number one, arranging your loop into a full beat is supposed to help it sound interesting. But if you're using the exact same technique in every beat you make, like using halftime, your listener will eventually lose interest because of how predictable and boring you're being. Reason number two, if everyone else is doing the exact same technique as you, because believe me, they are, this hurts your ability to sound unique. Using halftime will just make you sound like the rest of the beat-making crowd. And finally, the worst part about using halftime all the time is that you're not learning the many other crucial arrangement ideas that you need to have in your toolbox. So if you want to become a better beat maker, let me give you 6 arrangement ideas to help you get out of halftime-itis so you can finally start making beats that sound interesting. And before we start, if you're serious about becoming a better beat maker, think about subscribing. I release new videos every single week, so this is the place to be. Alright, so let's start by using the simple beat as an example. Here I have a sample from Splice. And I have a drum and 808 pattern to go along with it. And let's say we start arranging this beat and we reach a point where we want something different. One idea is to take your sample and create chops. You can chop each individual note or you can create bigger chops, it's up to you. Then after you create your chops, remove a number of them and rearrange the rest. Here's a bonus tip. I would recommend adding either delay or reverb onto your sample during this part. That way your sample will sound more natural since it won't just end abruptly. And when you do this, use automation to control the effect so it's not on all the time. To do this, create an automation clip using the dry wet knob for the effect. And we only want this effect on during the chopped up part of our arrangement. So let's turn it off everywhere else and have it only turn on here. Now this new section just feels different than our normal loop. The next idea is much more simple but still effective. You don't always have to change or manipulate your sample to create a different feeling in your arrangement. For example, if you simply just take the other elements in your beat and make changes to them, this can be enough to help your beat sound different. So here, let's duplicate our drum and 808 pattern and let's change this pattern around. Let's start by going into the hi-hats and reducing how busy this pattern is by stretching it out and deleting the rest. Let's take our snare and create a different pattern here as well. I'll add some more musicality into my 808 pattern too. So after doing all that, here's what we get. Very simple and easy to do, but still very effective. Next, let's move on to idea number 3. When you use halftime, part of what it does is pitch your sample down. So another idea you can use is to pitch your sample up instead. But how you do this makes a huge difference. Most people will duplicate their sample and then just grab the pitch knob and crank it up so their beats sound like this. Doing this approach can be a bad idea. What you're doing is taking this huge important part of your beat and shifting the entire frequency spectrum up. This might create gaps in the frequency presence of your beat as a whole and cause it to sound unbalanced. For example, when we pitch this sample up, we get a ton of new frequencies in the high end which sound harsh, and it's causing our beat to sound less balanced here. So here's what I recommend you do instead. Keep that pitched up version of your sample, but also keep the original sample at the same time. Then send the pitched up version of your sample to a different mixer, allowing you to add different effects onto it. For the first original sample, add a filter or EQ onto it and get rid of the higher frequencies. For the pitched up version, add a filter or an EQ to get rid of the lower frequencies. So now your sample number 1 is sitting in the lower frequencies and sample number 2 is sitting in the higher frequencies. Next, I recommend controlling just how many of those new frequencies are in the higher end of your pitched up sample using the same EQ or filter. This way you'll be able to get a better balance. Let's compare these two approaches. This is how the sample sounds if I were to just pitch it up. And this is how it sounds with this more precise approach. It just feels like it has a better continuity going from one section to another. And again, use automation just like we did in the first example to control when you want these effects to be on. The next idea is going to be a bit more work, but it can be a game changer. Start by using an analysis tool on your sample. For FL Studio users, Wave Candy is going to be your best friend here. This shows you the notes playing inside your sample, so if you want a full tutorial on how to use this plugin, check the link in the corner. Once you add this onto your sample, let it play for one full loop and then hit freeze. We're now looking at every single note playing inside of our sample. Choose one instrument in the sample and recreate its pattern. Once you have the full pattern copied, your next job will be to find a replacement sound. I recommend finding one that's different enough where the beat will feel distinct when this new sound starts to play, but similar enough where we have a good continuity again. If you use a sound that's just way too different, it will sound really jarring and disjointed getting from one section to another, so learn how to analyze the sounds that you're replacing. This is a topic that I talk about in my free 30-minute training, which can be found in the description box below if you're interested in learning more about this idea. Once you have your sound, filter or EQ the original sound out from your sample by using automation again, and use your new sound instead during this part of your arrangement. Halftime isn't the only tool that you can use to help bring drastic changes to your sample. For example, Shaperbox is another much more flexible tool that gives you a lot of different ideas that you can use. Another one is Portal. This can be a great choice if you want to push and experiment with your sample. For example, check out how this sounds. If you want to take your production to the next level, using a combination of all these ideas is when you really put gas onto fire. Having said that, if you struggle with when you want to make these types of changes in your beat and how to structure your beats correctly, check out the video that's showing right next to me. In it, I show you how to take everything that you just learned and show you when to use these ideas to help your beats finally start to sound full and interesting. So go ahead and click it, and I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoy this video as well.